I hear for a cost of a smartphone, you can get a smart charger and then literally drive your car for free. How does that work?
So with a smart charger like a Zappi, you're able to maximise the consumption of cheap energy or free energy if you're producing it yourself. And that way you're getting free mileage and very cheap mileage when compared to having a petrol engine. So you're saving a lot of money that way. And you think of the cost of a grid connection fee per day. Over the course of 2 years, you've essentially paid off your smart charger just by reducing the amount of energy consuming from the grid.
Hi, we've got Johnny Warnock with us today from Myenergi. Welcome to the podcast, Johnny.
Thank you, Marcus.
So what's your background? You've been with Myenergi for about 3 years. What did you do before that?
So been with Myenergi for a bit over 3 years now. Prior to that, I've sort of a bit of a varied background. So my background has been the print industry. So I've done all aspects of print from cloth and stickered print and that sort of thing through to promotional products, wine labels. And during COVID, I was actually managing fleets of photocopiers, which was very quiet during COVID, where no one was in the office using the photocopiers. They're all at home, work from home. So I wasn't doing much during COVID. But I think it was during that time I realised I was looking for something that I wanted to align with my values a lot more. And I didn't want to keep cutting down trees for the sake of getting a job. So I took a punt on EVs and landed a job with Myenergi. And
Is energy today quite different from, let's say, 20 years ago?
yeah, we do need to look at energy very much differently to how we have in the past. So traditionally, if we need more power, we just burn more coal, which we know isn't a sustainable solution anymore. So we need to be smarter about how we use energy. We've got a lot more renewables coming in now. So with the renewables comes volatility. There's also plenty of opportunity to be more efficient in how we use energy as well. And with efficiency comes cost saving, and everyone wins when we save money.
So you're telling me that basically we can get renewable quite cheap, but sometimes it doesn't arrive at the right time. So you've got two products called the Zappi and the Eddi.
Yep.
How do they kind of help in those circumstances?
Well, solar is really great in the sense that it's free. So when the sun's shining, you're getting free energy. But then when a cloud passes over, you lose that energy. So if you're drawing that power from the grid, you're actually paying for energy at that time. So with our devices, they link up with your solar export. So it watches how much solar you're exporting and only uses what you're giving away to the grid for essentially free. So you're heating hot water, charging your car for free, and the products will ramp up and down based on how much power is available.
So look, I think with the growth of EVs coming through now, potentially in the next few years, really, because I think a lot of people who are now replacing cars and with the price drops of EVs are more and more moving down that track, then it makes sense to have a smart charger.
It's going to happen really quickly. So when I started with Myenergi 3 years ago, the Model Y wasn't available in Australia. The BYD didn't have a presence here. In that amount of time, it's just exploded, and it's going to be really exciting to see where we're going to be in 5 or 10 years' time when every second car sold is going to be electric.
I hear for a cost of a smartphone, you can get a smart charger and then literally drive your car for free. How does that work?
So with a smart charger like a Zappi, you're able to maximise the consumption of cheap energy or free energy if you're producing it yourself. And that way you're getting free mileage and very cheap mileage when compared to having a petrol engine. So you're saving a lot of money that way. And you think of the cost of a grid connection fee per day. Over the course of 2 years, you've essentially paid off your smart charger just by reducing the amount of energy consuming from the grid.
So if I use, for example, my normal, let's say I have an EV, and now I use my power point to charge my car, and I need, let's say, 20 kilowatt hours for 100K. That'll cost me $9 in case of a 45-cent kilowatt hour price. What's the cost with the Zappi?
I guess what you need to consider with the little plug-in power points is you bottleneck to the 10 amp supply to the device itself. So if you've got a cheap energy window, some energy retailers offer free electricity between 11 and 2. So if you've got a little power point you plug into, you're limited to 2 kilowatts during that time. So you're not really maximising the amount of free energy you can get in that window. So
I only get 2 kilowatt hours an hour out of it.
Yeah.
So my car will be still not really that fully charged, is it?
Yeah, you're only getting 10, 20 kilometres of range gain per hour. Whereas if you have a smart charger, you can capitalise on those cheap rates during those short little windows. You can get much more power in 3 or 4 times that amount of power in a much shorter window and not paying for it.
So tell me if I got that right. If I have the Zappi, your smart charger, and I have that installed in my house, will you then be able to take advantage to take the electricity when it's cheap
Mm.
and then additional take my solar when I have too much, and I can combine those two benefits and then really save money?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something we found quite a lot actually with the Zebet trial we did, was that people would charge from their solar during the day, but obviously in winter there's less surplus solar available. So when there's a cheap rate available at night, they're able to fill up at the overnight rate and minimise the amount of cost to them.
So let's say the people who purchase your equipment, what's the kind of general feedback you get?
I think there is a little bit of reluctance because people are pretty price sensitive and they look at the price first rather than the benefit. But then once they sort of step over that hurdle and see the benefits and then make the investment, they really start questioning why it took them so long to take that leap in the first place, because the benefits really sell themselves once they take that plunge.
So you're saying that a normal wall charger, just a cable that doesn't give me the ability to interact with the solar and the other benefits that potentially come with different prices, they are cheaper than the Zappi, but then you say you're catching that up quite quickly through the relative free charging that you get out of your solar. Is that can you kind of explain that a bit more?
Yeah, so there's a much quicker return on investment if you're able to charge smart rather than put up with a cheaper solution and charge over a long period of time. So with a wall, like a plug-in wall socket, it's going to take about 20 to 30 hours to get a full charge, and you've got no control over when you draw that power. It's either going to draw that power or not. Whereas with the smart charge, you can get that same amount of charge within 6 or 7 or even as less as 5 hours. You're able to choose when that power is coming from, whether it's cheap green energy or your overnight rate, and that way you're not paying for it. You're guaranteeing you get a full charge much faster.
Could you actually make money from your car? I mean, how's that whole vehicle to grid working, and how does your product fit into that?
Yeah, potentially you could make money from charging your car. So there is a lot of talk around vehicle to grid, and there is a lot of hype, and there's a lot of potential in it, and it is going to be a really important feature of our energy mix in the future. But I think, without trying to speak out of school, is that it's not here yet. So no one can give us a price. No one can tell us if the car's compatible. And also, it's very limiting who benefits from vehicle to grid as well. So you need to own your own home, which is a shrinking minority of people in Australia at the moment. You need to have rooftop solar, and you need to have the capital to be able to invest in a vehicle to grid system. And then you need a car that's also compatible. So where we see the benefit of demand side response is that benefits everyone who has a smart charger in their home, who can increase and decrease their power consumption based on the wholesale price of electricity and respond to spikes in demand and shut the charger off. And that way the grid's becoming more efficient, and that efficiencies are passed on to the consumer in their hip pocket.
You're saying that your product does that, or?
Yeah. So the Zappi does have demand side response capabilities built in. So when they get a signal from the energy provider, say there's too many people demanding electricity at this one time, we saw in the Zebet trials is that at 12 o'clock midnight, when the cheap rate comes in, there's a massive spike in demand on the grid because everyone's wanting to charge that cheap price. So if we can spread that load over the course of 6 hours and not have this massive spike at midnight, that way we can smooth the peaks and troughs in the grid, and makes the grid more efficient and more stable, and those savings get passed on through to the customer.
Right. Interesting. I didn't even know that. I thought they were specifically cheap at that time because there was hardly a use.
Oh, that's part of it. But if it's kind of like the spike we get at 5 o'clock when everyone gets home and turns the aircon on, turns the ovens on, and that sort of thing, and starts drawing that power. It's a massive spike in demand, and we can't keep shoveling coal in to meet demand, so we have to manage the demand side rather than supply.
I bought an EV. I'm now looking at charger. There's a slight cheaper, just says wall charger, and then there's a little bit more expensive smart charger. What's the difference? What I'm paying extra for?
So with your basic charger, you're going to be getting the maximum rate as soon as you plug in. So if you plug your car in during peak time, you're paying peak price. So you're paying the most you could be paying for your charging. Whereas with the smart charger, it can wait until the prices become cheap before you charge. Or if you're producing solar, you're using your own solar and charging for free. The other advantage of the smart charger is they have dynamic load balancing. So if you get those periods where you get 2 or 3 hours of free electricity, you might want to power everything at home during that period. So you run your EV charger at a flat rate, turn your dishwasher on, washing machine, all these loads around the home. Your house might have a 40 amp or 63 amp supply. So if you overload your switchboard, you're not getting free power because it's going to trip your main switch. You've lost all your power altogether. So having a smart charger is able to manage that energy usage. So when your energy consumption reaches a limit, the charger will actually slow down so it stays at or below the limit. So you maximizing your energy consumption for free without compromising the home.
Now, if I have just a non-smart charger in my garage, are there particular risks that it actually can cost me more than I expect?
So with a basic charger, you're plugging in and charging at the time of energy price at that time. So you've got no control, but then you've got no load management as well. So we particularly see in WA a lot where they're limited to 32 amps on three-phase supplies. So the plug of the car in charge, that's 32 amps just for the car. If anything else is on that phase, it trips their main switch. So you go from having 32 amps to supply to the home to zero, which isn't a good result.
I don't need the air conditioner today.
Yeah, don't need any power at that point. So, yeah, having a smart charge is really important to balance those loads as well, and making sure you're not at risk of blowing your main fuse.
But wouldn't a smart electrician and solar installer be aware of that and actually point that out, or do they still flog that system and tell the customer later on, well, should have read the fine print?
I think EV charging is still quite new to a lot of electricians, and I think what we've found is electricians will come and install something if they're asked to, but not necessarily read up or be passionate about EVs and that sort of thing, and they'll take the job because the job's there, whereas we want to be pushing work towards electricians who understand AS3000 requirements when it comes to EV charging, making sure the supplies run correctly and all the wiring rules are followed, and the customer gets the best result.
You've talked to me before a bit about load balancing, but I must say it kind of still confuses me sometimes a bit, because I just expect to be able to go into my house, turn everything on that I want at any given time and not have any issues. If I now introduce the EV chargers, or if I need extra power to go to my hot water system, can that really stuff it up? And how does your product help with that whole balancing, the Eddi and the Zappi?
I think a lot of people are still in the dark around how much energy is used to power an EV. So if you've got a house that has a 40 amp supply and you put in a 32 amp charger, 75% of your capacity is taken up by your EV charging. So
75%? Wow.
Yeah. So then you put a kettle or a washing machine on, you're all of a sudden overloading your main switchboard.
So is that a normal wall charger, the 32 amp, or is that already a fast charger?
Your dedicated level 2 wall chargers are 32 amps. Yeah.
Right. So if I use the Zappi, I won't have that problem?
No, it's set and forget. So if you're at risk of overloading your switchboard, the Zappi will see that and then reduce its output, so it knows not to go over how much power you're allowed to draw from the mains.
But that will also slow my charging down a bit. But then again, I don't have to go to the switchboard and turn it back on all the time. So
it'll slow it down temporarily. So based on those loads. So if you turn the kettle on, it might drop by 2 kilowatts while the kettle's boiling. As soon as your kettle finishes boiling, you've got that extra capacity available. So it jumps straight back up again.
Wow. How does it know that? Has it got a little guy inside listening and going, oh, need to go up again or not?
A little Grimsby elf.
How's it all working?
So it uses what's called CT clamps. So it's a little clamp that clamps around the incoming main supply to the property. And by that CT clamp, it's essentially a coil and a magnet. And that tells the Zappi how much power is going in or out of your property at any given time. So via the CT, the Zappi knows how much power can draw from surplus, or if it needs to load shed based on too much power being drawn.
So have you had any instance where somebody used the Zappi, got the Myenergi monitoring app, and then suddenly finds surprises in the house that they were never aware of?
So I had one occasion where someone bought an electric car and they called up in a huff and they're actually complaining that they were worried that the house was leaking electricity because their electricity bill went through the roof. And I so something sounds wrong with the solar, and go so started asking, have you had your solar looked at? He was like, oh, I don't have solar. And they had no idea how much power consumption they were getting from charging their EV, and then told them to open the app, and then they could see the big spike in power consumption every time they charge their car. And it's something that they never really thought about until they opened the app.
Right, right. Well, maybe getting solar would have been a good idea too if you had the ability in this house and all that.
I'd like to know if they bought solar, and someone owes me a commission if they did.
So even if I don't have solar, I can still get benefits out of the Zappi because you're going to charge it at the cheaper electricity rates. Is that it?
Someone drives a petrol car, they won't go to the nearest station, they go to the cheapest. So the Zappi does that work for them and finds the cheapest rate, the cheapest time, and charges the cheapest price rather than going for whatever's available.
Do you then have to enter all the electricity plans, or how does it know that?
Depending on which retailer you're with, you can program it to boost based on your energy plan. So in the UK, we have Octopus Energy, which have a dynamic tariff system. So that links up via your energy retailer app, and then will automatically schedule your charge based on the energy retailer's dynamic pricing schedule.
I understand there are different charges. There's the DC charges, there are home charges of different sizes and types and classes. Where does the Zappi fit into all of this?
So you've got your DC charges, which you typically find at petrol stations, along freeways and that sort of thing, which are getting you much faster charge rates. The other end of the spectrum, you've got your little 10 amp portable chargers, or sometimes referred to as granny chargers or trickle chargers. And they're putting around 10 amps in at a time and taking around 20 to 30 hours to charge your car. Then you've got the dedicated 32 amp AC EV charging, which is where Zappi comes into the fold. And then you're getting between 7 kilowatts and 22 kilowatts, depending on the capacity of the vehicle.
Per hour?
Yeah.
Right. So if I have a 74 kilowatt EV, theoretically, then I can charge it with a Zappi in how many hours?
Depending on what state of charge is when you start charging versus when you finish, but you typically between 5 or 6 hours for a full charge.
Right. So an easy overnight when the electricity is cheaper, or during the day with solar. Is that it?
Yeah. So you get a full charge from empty to full with a dedicated 32 amp charger. Whereas your trickle charger, you're taking a full day to get the same amount of power.
Right. Now, quick question with the Zappi. I'm sitting at home during the day, I'm working from home, and my solar is going up and down and up and down, but I actually want to have my car full in 6 hours using solar as well as the grid.
Yep.
Can I program the Zappi to do that?
Absolutely. So the Zappi's got a function called Smart Boost. So you can set a set target by a set deadline. So it'll use surplus solar as much as possible. But if it finds there's a gap that needs to make up before that deadline, it will draw that power from the grid if it needs to make sure you hit your target by that set deadline.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty sophisticated. I like it.
Yeah,
Somebody like me can program that?
Yeah, it's all programmable via the app.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll see how
it's
we go.
it's a really useful case when people get home at 5 o'clock at night, particularly during daylight savings. They might have solar available in the evening and use that surplus solar in the evening, and then they can charge the car overnight from the off peak and set that 30 kilowatt hour target where the target is by the time they leave for work the next day, and maximising the consumption of their own solar, but also cheap grid energy.
You're doing a smart charging pilot with DECA in Victoria. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so we did a trial with DECA. I think it was started around September last year. So we put in 100 Zappis around Victoria with certain homeowners that have solar. We're looking to trial several things like charging from solar, patterns in energy use, but also demand side response, and being able to slow charges down at the time of a grid event, and sort of documenting those benefits and features and findings. We learned a lot in that trial about people's energy behaviour, and what we learnt was that people were very price sensitive when it comes to consume electricity, and they'll consume power when it's cheapest, not necessarily when they need it. So one of the biggest things we found was that at midnight, when these cheap tariffs come into play, there's a massive spike in demand because everyone that programmed their car to charge at the stroke of midnight. But we also found that people aren't putting that much power into the car in one session. So I think the average charge session was about 8 kilowatt hours. So they're getting that full charge with less than 2 hours. So between 12 and 2, there's a massive spike. But after 2 o'clock, there's a massive decline. Whereas if you had dynamic scheduling and that sort of thing, we could spread that over the course of 6 hours, and rather than having that big spike at midnight, we could sort of create a more or balanced load between midnight and 6 a.m. And there's a lot of learnings. I think 40% of charging from that time came from solar only. So that's 40% of the electricity would normally go out to the grid. And the feedback with customers was very positive, and they were customers that hadn't considered getting a smart charger installed, and after that the feedback was they wouldn't go back to having a portable charger, that the next home they move into would have a smart charger.
Because basically it's got all the features to save you more money.
And we had one case where a customer actually bought a second EV, so they had a diesel Volkswagen, but then once they had the Zappi installed, that made much more economic sense to get a second EV. So they sold the Volkswagen and got a second EV. And yeah, it's something that is very positive that to come out of that, and people understanding that moving to electric isn't a burden, it's an opportunity.
I mean, if I look at my normal car, I'm saving potentially $2,500 in petrol if I charge it from solar. But without your Zappi smart charger, I'm not necessarily multiplying the solar benefits as smartly as I could. So if I want to get the true $2,500 saving, there's really no way around the Zappi. Now, I mean, it is not a really big decision to get a charger, and the cost difference between just the basic one and the smart one is not even that much. So why would people still try to save those couple of $100?
I think sometimes people lead with the cost first rather than the benefits. If you look at the benefits first and then see how quickly you can recoup that cost, it becomes a bit of a no-brainer.
Do some of the manufacturers give you like a free cable to plug into the wall as well and stuff?
Depending on the manufacturer, they might give you a free portable charger, but what we find with vehicle manufacturers and car dealerships is they don't really know that much about EV charging, and there's not a sale in for them, so they don't really bother with it. So we get every now and then calls from angry customers saying the dealership didn't tell me about this, or they told me I could do this and I can't. And yeah, dealerships want to sell the car, but they don't really think about charging. It's not their job. So,
but I think sometimes some vehicle EV manufacturers give you actually a free charger. But do you find then sometimes the customer rings up and says that thing's actually not doing what I want it to do?
Yeah, we have that quite a bit as well. So that they'll get the charger that comes with the car, and then all of a sudden they'll find that it's draining their home battery and things like that. So it's not something they really thought about at the time of buying the car, and there's expectations that things will work, but there's not really an explanation behind it to say to make it work the way you want it to. You're going to need to do X, Y, and Z. So I think there's a real education piece that comes with EV ownership, and we're still at the early stages of that, and that's why we're so focused on having a dedicated Australian-based support team to help guide customers through that journey.
But how do you actually, you see, I'm buying an EV, I'm so focused on the EV, the charging kind of comes a bit of an afterthought. How do you then jump in front and go, the Zappi is here, baby, it can do this and this and this for you? Do you kind of do forums and go to EV shows, and how do people find out more about it?
Yeah, so we are a major sponsor of Everything Electric and have been for a few years now. And we try and get it in front of customers as much as we can. We're very much focused on electricians, and as far as we're concerned, electricians are our most important customers. They're the soldiers on the front line sort of thing, so we want to make sure that they're supported and informed, and we want them to be successful and be an ally for them. So we're very focused on relationships with electricians. We've recently launched a product champion scheme where customers can reach out to a product champion who's a trained installer directly and request a quote directly. So we won't hoard leads sort of thing. We'll disperse them to amongst those that promote our product and support our product. And
so if I go onto the website, I can actually find an authorized installer or somebody who can talk to me about the product, is it?
Yeah, so you can request a quote from our website, give us some basic details around where you want your charger to go, and then the next page will show you a map, and you can find your nearest installer or choose from a list of installers in your area, and then with one click, request a quote from them and they can come back to you with a price.
You really start utilizing the solar much better if I do have a Zappi for my EV or an Eddi for my hot water. So let's talk about the hot water for a minute.
Yep.
So I've got a hot water, the old electric tank at the side of my house. I've also got solar. How can your product, being the Eddi, help me in that case?
Well, traditionally, hot water tanks are sort of operated at night during that off-peak window. So you're heating your hot water at night, and then it's staying dormant during the day. Whereas with that Eddi, you're able to divert your surplus solar into that hot water tank and treat the hot water as if it's a battery and store that energy as hot water throughout the day. And it's topping up from your surplus throughout the day. And then at night, when people have showers and baths and that sort of thing, using that, drawing down on that energy you've stored from your solar, and heating hot water for free.
And I mean, the off-grid tariffs have gone up and up and up now. So they're not 7-8 cents anymore. They're now 18-20 cents. So you're making quite a bit of a difference there then.
Yeah, you're saving about $700, $800, depending on how much hot water you use. The return on investments.
Per year?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think the traditional hot water tanks, I think it's about 30 to 40%. Your energy consumption goes into hot water. And that's a 30 to 40% reduction in your bill.
I mean, even if I have a battery and solar, it still makes sense very much to have an Eddi and a Zappi because from where I sit, it doesn't make sense sending your electricity into your battery and then push it out again to send into your hot water tank. It's not very efficient. You're better off to get it straight from the solar via the Eddi into your hot water tank.
Yeah. So the Eddi is essentially treating your hot water as if it's a battery. So if you're consuming 6 kilowatt hours a day for your hot water, your Eddi's able to offset that and give you 6 kilowatt hours of extra battery capacity. And you don't want to be using your home storage battery to heat your hot water. So Eddi gives you the smarts of being able to control where your power goes into your hot water, whether it's from solar or grid if you need it to. And it gives the whole water system a brain to make smart decisions.
So if I make too much solar, instead of exporting it, the Eddi directs it exactly into my hot water tank. So, and what about if clouds come and it goes up and down? It sends it, then it stops, then it sends it and it stops. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so it's not like an on-off switch like some other appliances. It's very smart in the way that it's able to increase and decrease the amount of power going to the hot water tank based on what's available. So if you've got 500 watts or 2 kilowatts or 50 watts, you're able to divert only what's left over into your hot water. So you're never drawing from the grid.
Does then I have to shower cold, or do I then still get overwritten and I get it out of the grid?
No, we wouldn't release a product if it meant people having cold showers. So you do have that fail-safe of the grid as well. So if you've got a cheap overnight rate, you can boost your hot water and top up your hot water from the grid as well. So if you only need an extra kilowatt to get your hot water to that temperature, you can draw that for 8 cents rather than 40 cents or whatever your day rate is. So you've got that flexibility and control.
And so then the Eddi can actually also use a second other device that I can choose. So if I had underfloor heating, I could use that. What are other things that I could connect up to it?
Any sort of large load around the home, whether it's a second hot water tank. So at my mum's property, there's 2 separate dwellings with each of the hot water tank. So they divert power to 2 hot water tanks from the one Eddi. Things like heated towel rails, underfloor heat mats, pool pumps, heat pumps, spa heaters.
What about, can I run my aircon or decide I want to run it only at a certain time, like at night? I'm already kind of living it cold, but during the day I want to pre-cool my house.
You could potentially run an aircon from an Eddi as well. I think heating and air conditioning is something more that you want on demand, so it's harder to load shift. But the best use case for Eddi is somewhere you can shift the use based on energy price rather than requirement.
Right. So basically, even if I have no solar and I've decided that my pool pump is the way to go, then it will turn it on when the electricity price is the cheapest, is it?
You could do that way, yeah.
Oh, okay. So can you actually sit there and calculate, okay, you're going to make this much on your solar benefits, you're going to make this much on the energy tariff benefits. So there's actually 2 benefits coming out of the products, isn't it?
Definitely.
I thought it was always just the solar. I didn't realize that. How stupid me.
Yeah, well, the products are getting smarter all the time, and having firmware updates has sort of enhanced that as well. And being a smart device, it will get smarter with age.
I mean, my honest belief is while I like heat pumps, when you get the price for them, it kind of makes your eyes water a little bit. The quality ones, there's very cheap stuff around, but the quality heat pumps do cost quite a bit. But if I had a normal electric hot water tank and then put the Eddi with it, that makes it just as much as smart as a heat pump, especially if I have solar.
The electric hot water tanks do have a lot of advantages as well. So there's no moving parts. So they can offer longer warranties. They're cheaper to install. less complicated install. They take up less space because they don't have a compressor to consider.
So let me ask that question then. If I had to get a new hot water system, and I've had an electric hot water tank before, and now I've got a quote for a heat pump, or replace it with the electric hot water, but maybe add an Eddi to it, which one of the two is the better solution?
If you're replacing the hot water tank, depending if the tank's rusted out, you can replace the tank with a new element for less than probably $1,000, and then paired with the Eddi, you're turning that hot water system into a smart hot water system, and it's just plug and play. And then you've got a longer warranty as well because there's no compressor, no gases, no moving parts, and then you're only using your own surplus solar to heat your hot water, and can boost your hot water much faster than a heat pump that can take longer to heat water. It's not as impacted by ambient temperatures, so heat pumps become less efficient during frosts and that sort of thing. So there are a lot of advantages to the older, simpler hot water tanks.
So if I look at my Eddi and my electric versus the heat pump, potentially in the purchasing initially, I might even already have a advantage because I've seen heat pumps for as much as $4,500. I know there's lots of cheap stuff around, but God help us with those.
Yeah.
And then I have the ongoing savings for quite a while because my solar is now turning my water hot. So from that perspective, I actually win on two fronts.
And in the winter time where you've got less surplus solar and less generation, you can take longer to heat your hot water, but it guarantees like that you're saving that energy as well. So you might need 4 hours to heat your hot water over winter, whereas in summer you can do it in 1. That way, if no one's home during the day, you're still heating hot water more gradually. But when you get home at night, you've got a hot tank of hot water to have all your hot showers and stuff with, and you don't notice the cold water, but you do notice the savings in your hip pocket.
Is there a chance to override the Eddi and do a boost or so if for whatever reason I run out of hot water?
Absolutely. You can boost your hot water as well. So if you do need that rush of power to your hot water, you can also turn your hot water off from the Eddi. So if you're going away on a holiday for 4 weeks, you can open your app, turn off your hot water at the airport, then fly to Bali, wherever you're going, and then at the airport on the way home, turn your hot water on again. And that way you've got your hot water. When you get home, you haven't consumed any power unnecessarily while you're away. I had occasion a few years ago where typical average Australian story was mum's off grid and butchered a heap of sheep and put them in a mobile cool room, which is fine during the day, but at night they kept on drawing power and ran the battery flat very quickly. And
that's an off-grid system.
That's off-grid, yeah.
Is that your mum? And what, she's got butchered sheep in her cool room, has she?
Yeah.
And that drained her battery.
Yeah, ran the battery flat within a few hours.
Right.
So I was able to log into the app from Melbourne, turn the hot water off, gave her the startup procedure to start the battery charging again. And then as soon as the batteries were full again, I could turn the hot water on again from Melbourne.
Right. Saved mum to have a nice shower down the track, is it?
Yeah, I think she went without a shower that morning, but those are the things you have to live
Interesting mum with the butchered sheep in her freezer.
Oh, she's a force to be reckoned with. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know we'd get from Zappi to Eddi to butchered sheep. So your mum does off-grid. So she's obviously very aware what energy does because when her battery is empty, she's dead duck, kind of. So what are we learning about off-grid that can we help in our normal houses as well? Yeah,
so it's been a bit of a learning curve for mum. She never expected to be living off-grid, but due to circumstances, it sort of happened that way. So I guess for backstory, our family farm in northeast Victoria was a soldiers' settlers block from World War One. My great-grandfather built the house there himself, pressed the bricks made the bricks on site, and the house is still there today. I don't think they had a grid connection there until the mid-1960s. Prior to that, he had a steam engine that he built. It was powered from steam, and then it's gone full circle. So my dad lived there in his later years, and then around about 2018, I think he decided to go off-grid, had enough with energy retailers and had a grid connection, but decided to shut it off and went off-grid and thought he was mad at the time. And then we had the Black Summer bushfires and a lot of people around that area lost power for a month, and he had power the whole time. So it was a bit of a stroke of genius on his part. And then he passed away a few years ago, and my mum was in a situation where she needed somewhere to live at short notice, and we got her in there, and she's now living that off-grid lifestyle, and she's fully self-sufficient, not having to pay rent, and she's living her best life. She's got chooks and stuff now, but she never really thought about solar or having being renewably focused and that sort of thing. So she's had a really quick learning curve in how much 16 kilowatt hours can get you throughout the night. So yeah, I've had a few occasions where we run short of power, but yeah, via the Myenergi ecosystem, she's able to track exactly how much power everything's using. So via the ecosystem, you actually, if you turn a vacuum cleaner on, you know exactly how much power a vacuum cleaner uses, and you become very energy conscious. So I guess coming back to your point, having that visibility makes her very aware of how far power can go, and able to make more conscious decisions about how you use that power when you've got it.
I mean, you've got quite sexy names there. You've got the Zappi and you've got the Eddi. Are they technically kind of similar products, or can you kind of, in a summary, just tell me the two differences and what they actually do?
So they operate in very similar ways in the way they control the use of surplus energy. Eddi Zappi is a dedicated EV charger. That's all it will do. So it uses that surplus energy to charge a car, and that's it. And then your energy monitoring via the app. Eddi is a bit more of a Swiss Army knife when it comes to you consuming surplus solar. So primarily for hot water tanks, you would use that to divert your surplus to a hot water tank. But you can use that for a whole range of other features as well.
So it basically can send my solar, when I have spare solar, into any of those devices that you've just mentioned. And I can prioritize that I want to do my hot water for the house first before I do the pool hot water, for example. Can I do that?
Correct. Yep.
Wow.
And one Eddi's got two outputs, so you can put one to your hot water tank and the other to underfloor heating. If you've got two hot water tanks underfloor heating, you can pair multiple Eddis as well. So you've got, I've seen one property that's got three Eddis for different appliances around the home, and they're able to micromanage the surplus solar consumption to all those appliances.
So per Eddi, I'll have to decide which one of the two in my house I want to have as a priority to have the solar go into it. I can't have 5. If I want that, I need multiple Eddis. Got it.
Yeah. But that's easy enough to prioritize between your Eddis as well. So
Right.
you can create a cascading priority scheme.
I'm doing the Eddi monitoring today. I'll be busy for the next 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So have you made any estimates in various scenarios that you observed of how much money the Zappi or the Eddi can save you during the year?
Yeah, so the Eddi, by using your surplus solar to heat your hot water, you might, depending on how much hot water you use, you typically save around $800 a year. With the Zappi, if you think about the cost of public charging, you might be saving 60 cents a kilowatt hour. So an average charge will probably around $35. If you're charging from a flat rate of 30 cents, that cost comes down to $15. So you're saving $15 just by using your flat standard rate. And then your cheap overnight rates, which might be, say, 8 cents, the cost of full charge comes from $35 down to about $4. So you're charging for a full charge for the cost of a cup of coffee. Then if you're using free energy or energy from your own solar, it's free. So your cost comes from $35 down to $0. And if that's what you do in a week, multiply that by 365. We had an Eddi installed, and we kept on seeing this 3 kilowatts of import, and no one could work out where it was coming from. So turning loads off around the home, house was still drawing 3 kilowatts, and everyone was scratching their head, must have installed it wrong. And they went out and upstairs in a barn found a foot heater that had been running for 2 years, and no one knew about it. It wasn't until they had that visibility via the app that they could see where the power was coming from, and lucky it didn't burn the house down.
Very dry hay in that particular barn, was it?
Yeah. It had some benefits.
Yeah, okay. But, I'm going to be very frank with you. I'm a busy man, all right? If I now have to start running my energy use in the house like a pirate just trying to crisscross the sea and looking at the compass, I'm too busy to bother with doing that. Isn't there any way to just automate the bloody thing?
Well, the Zappi and Eddi in our ecosystem does that thinking for you, so you don't have to have that mental load of thinking about how much solar you've got available or what you're doing with it. The products will do that in the background and make those decisions for you. And then you just check when you want to see how much money you've saved.
But I mean, how fast and how quickly can I change some of those settings in the app? Or so if I want to change the hours of when the solar charges the hot water, for example, is that quite easy to do?
Yeah, from the app you can do it within a matter of seconds just by opening the app and setting when you want your charging to happen or how you want to prioritize it. It's all done at the slip of a finger.
So what's your typical customer? Are they buying an Eddi or a Zappi at the time they buy the solar and the battery, or they're buying it separately after they bought the solar and the battery and they need more maneuverability, or what's the typical experience?
Typically, they're buying the Zappi at the time they purchase the car. Sometimes it's within a week of the car arriving, so they might have the car on order for 2 or 3 months, and then all of a sudden the car's a week away, and then, I need a charger now. So yeah, that's sort of typically when the Zappi install requests come in. A lot of people do bundle them with solar and battery packages as well. But the beauty of the Zappi is it's very modular. So we install a lot of Zappis on older solar systems that have never had solar monitoring before because it just didn't exist or was never offered to them at the time, or someone might have purchased a house that already had solar. And by putting our products in, you get visibility over the solar, which they didn't have before. And it gives people an informed decision on whether to upgrade solar or whether the solar's doing what it should be doing.
Right. Because a lot of the small systems, people might say, I got solar, but not realizing really it's not doing the heavy lifting because it's too small.
A lot of the cases we actually find customers that are saying that the monitoring's not working, and then we'll look at the CTs and everything, and then they'll discover it's actually the solar that's not working. So you get that visibility, which is really important. Yeah.
Do you find that regularly? Is it old solar actually hasn't been monitored and it's somehow underperforming or dead?
Yeah, it does happen from time to time. But yeah, having that visibility and platform really helps us diagnose a lot of issues as well. I remember as a car manufacturer, maybe 2 years ago, they were having issues where it wasn't charging on one of the phases. And via the readings on the Zappi, you can actually see I was showing power coming through on phase 1 and phase 3, but nothing on phase 2. And we're actually able to identify an issue from the manufacturer and troubleshoot that way. So,
okay.
There's a whole wealth of information we get from the chargers, which makes troubleshooting and problem solving so much easier.
Now, when I want to install a Zappi, let's say, or an Eddi, what are the best positions for that product, and are they waterproof?
So the Zappi is IP65 rated, so it's perfectly fine outside. Like any smart device, you want to try and avoid direct sunlight where possible, but it is weatherproof and there's no issue there. Outside of direct sun and in a garage is ideal, but if you do, there's no issues putting it outside as well. The Eddi isn't IP rated, so it does need to be installed indoors, which is probably where you want an Eddi as well, because you've got that interface on the product telling you where your power's going and that sort of thing. So things like garages and at my mum's place, it's mounted beside the front door. So every time you walk in the door, you'll see what the solar's doing and how much power's going to the battery or from the battery.
So the Eddi doesn't need to be necessarily next to the hot water tank. Can it be near the switchboard?
Yeah, ideally near the switchboard, anywhere in the circuit between the switchboard and the hot water.
A lot of manufacturers do come to Australia, sell a really nice shiny product, but then when it comes to after sale and customer support and all that, the customer sometimes finds out the hard way that the promise doesn't match the reality. What's your story?
Yeah, well, I think EV ownership's new to a lot of people, and there's a lot of pitfalls and that people aren't necessarily prepared for. So we put a real emphasis on being able to support not just the customers to manage their expectations and explain to them how to get the most out of their charging experience, but also to electricians that aren't really familiar with EV charging it but want to do things the right way. So we're very proactive in how we support end users as well as installers, and we see that as something we offer as part of the product, and not just the product but also a service as well. So it's not something you're going to get from a cheaper manufacturer where they sell you the hardware and then you've got to call an overseas hotline. We're very big on making sure we have those relationships and making sure that people are supported and doing the right thing.
So where are you based in Australia?
Based in Richmond. Yep.
Right, so you're Melbourne based. Yep. But your network of installers and partners is right across Australia, is it?
We have an Australia-wide network of trained installers.
Right. Yep. And I can find them through your website?
Yep, via myenergi.com/au. When you request a quote, we'll take you through an installer map or a listing of installers in the area. you can reach out to them directly for a quote to supply and install.
Now, how many different charging companies and brands and all that are there out there right now? It's becoming quite a lot, is it?
Yeah, Australia's still quite insulated in that respect. So we've probably got about maybe 10 to 12 in Australia, but in Europe in particular, in the UK, there's hundreds, and we've seen, like, Myenergi's been a company since 2016, and we've seen a lot of manufacturers come and go in that time. So Myenergi's really focused on the long term, and we're going to be here in 10, 15 years' time. So if people buy a product from us tomorrow, they know that you're still getting support in that 10 years' time. So we're very sustainable as a business in our manufacturing standards, but also as a business financially, and trying to be financially sustainable and making sure that we're not selling things just to get the sale, but also knowing that we've got the security behind us to be around in the long term.
What are the kind of challenges?
I guess the challenges we face, there's a lot of electricians out there that are being asked to install a product that aren't familiar with EV charging, and they're doing it because they're asked, not because it's something they've sought out. And then making sure it's done to the correct standard, use the right size cabling. An EV charger can draw 32 amps for several hours at a time. If you undersize the cable or undersize the breaker, you're going to run into all sorts of issues. Making sure the CT clamp's installed in the right place. If that's not done correctly, the product's not going to work as it's designed to. So that's why we really put an emphasis on doing the install through a product champion, as someone who's had experience with the product, had the training, and someone's been vetted by us so the customer knows that they're going to be well looked after.
Right, so it's possibly more the install than actually the functionality of the product. That's the challenge, is it?
Yeah, what we find is that installs that are done by a trained installer or someone who's been through the training, they have a much less chance of failure. So the higher failure rates are usually by installers that or haven't done any training or haven't got to the point where reading the manual and just made some really simple mistakes, like undersized cabling, just slap it on the wall and just expect it to work. We really want to push installers that do the right thing and have done their due diligence and have training experience and after sales support.
What's a bit of wrong with baking on a Western wall?
Yeah, no one would do that on a solar inverter, and we see a lot of cowboys in the solar industry, and I'm sure a lot of listeners would be familiar with some of the cowboys out there and the ones that use Australian cricketers to promote their product. And I think EV charging might go down that path in the future, but we're trying to get away from that.
Right, so you really want somebody who kind of thinks through what the best position is, explain the monitoring, set the apps up, don't just do a runner, and I suppose size the cable the right way, because 2.5 mil is maybe a little bit cheaper, but probably not so good after 10 hours.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to lie, we're not the cheapest product in the market, nor do we strive to be. So we know we're a premium product, but we want a premium service to go with that and have things done right, because the customer deserves that when they're buying our product.
So now we're moving more with batteries and all that into the world of VPP. How is down the track the Zappi or the Eddi going to integrate with that kind of thing?
So VPPs are becoming quite big in the energy space, and Amber is sort of at the forefront of that. And we're currently in a trial with them to trial smart charging via Amber, so people on that platform can make sure that their charging is scheduled at the cheaper rates and integrating with Amber's energy plans.
So basically then if I have Amber and if I have solar, I've got a lot of solar, there's my hot water or my EV charging and it's sending it off there. But now in the middle of the night, there is another low curve of cheap electricity, and then your devices will know through Amber that that's the case, and then charge it at that lowest rate. And again, I'm saving. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, so Amber will tell the Zappi when power's cheap, and then the Zappi will start ramping up and charging based on what Amber tells it when power's cheap.
Right, and obviously also it's not going to charge when it's going through the roof.
Yeah, so if there's a spike in power price, Amber will tell the car charger that, and then the Zappi will turn off.
Now, more and more people will going to get a battery now with the federal rebate and all that. So how does the Zappi and the Eddi integrate where it used to be talking just to the solar, but now we're talking to the battery as well? It's all getting a bit more complicated. How does it work?
It doesn't necessarily have to be complicated. So the Zappi is really great in the way it can integrate with batteries and not draw down from the battery unnecessarily. So you're able to prioritize your solar to go into the battery, and then when your battery's full, then that power can go into your EV, and the Zappi can be programmed so it's not going to take from the battery unless you ask it to.
Right. Now, you just said that as it, unless you ask it to. So if I actually found I bought a really big battery and I always have a bit of spare capacity, can I then program my battery and my Zappi to take 10 kilowatt hours and send it into the car every day?
So in Eco Plus mode, the Zappi will charge purely from leftover solar. So anything that's left over after the battery in the house taken what it needs. But then in a fast or boost mode, the Zappi will take power from where it's available. So if you've got a big battery, that power can come from the battery. You can also set parameters on how much power you draw in that boost mode. So you could boost it for, say, 10 kilowatt hours. And then after that, it'll switch back to Eco Plus. So it'll top up that first 10 kilowatt hours from your battery. And then after that, it'll switch over to Eco Plus and charge from solar again.
So if I bought my EV, I decided to go for a Zappi, spend a bit extra, but get the smarts inbuilt. From then on, I really can forget about trying to work out when I can charge my car the cheapest, because the Zappi's all going to do it for me, is it?
It does the thinking for you, yeah.
So I just kind of go, oh, well, I get the savings and I don't have to have the headaches.
Yeah, just pocket the savings and get on with your life.
If your solar battery is already installed, can I then just add a Zappi or an Eddi, or do I have to do it all at the same time?
So the Zappi and Eddi, or the whole ecosystem, is designed very consciously to be brand agnostic. So it doesn't need to speak to your inverter directly, doesn't need to speak to your battery directly, doesn't need to speak to your car directly. It's the brand agnosticism is really important, because if anyone's owned an Apple or an Android and known cross-compatibility issues between the two ecosystems, that's a real burden for consumers. So we want to release a product that plays along nicely with everything. So if you have to replace your inverter in 5 years or install a battery, we want to make sure that our products are going to work with any product that you choose.
Now, I saw you at the EV show, and customers actually walked in and talked to you about their experience. And I didn't see anybody coming there and pushing their fist and were quite cranky. They were actually wanting to give you compliments and all that. How does that make you feel when you actually feel like I'm making a difference?
Yeah, it makes you feel like a bit of a rock star, actually. So we've got a couple of based out in the Blue Mountains somewhere, and they come to the Everything Electric every year. And yeah, that's really great to see them and see customers face to face. And if by chance they do have a problem, they can look you in the eye and sort of tell you about it. Whereas your cheaper manufacturers and those that don't have an in-country presence, they don't get that opportunity. That people want a neck to strangle sometimes, and that's really important to have that in country. So if it's a problem, you know about it and you can address it.
What about repairs? I mean, I suppose it's an electronic product. There's after sale required and all that. How does that work if I have a problem?
Yeah. Anyone that doesn't think electronics don't fail from time to time is kidding themselves. So it's really important for us to have that visibility and that after sale support as well. So we understand that, particularly in Australia, we're very reliant on getting around with our cars. It's not like Europe or Asia, where you can just jump on a train every 2 minutes, or there's a charger at the end of your street. If people don't have the ability to charge, it becomes a real burden on their everyday life, and it's not something that's lost on us. And yeah, we've had customers that have kids with special needs and disabilities, or people with mobility issues, and making sure they get support is super important to us. So we want to make sure that they're supported and their lives not impacted anyway. So we have a dedicated team based in Australia that look after support. A lot of the parts in our products are replaceable, so we're not always having to swap the entire unit. If we can replace a part, we can come to the party with that and replace the part and keep them charging.
So if I buy the Eddi or the Zappi, the after sale is handled by Myenergi?
Yep.
And you have a dedicated team, or you have installation partners that then come out?
So we have a group of trained and trusted installers called Product Champions. So they're like our approved installers. They've been through our training. We've vetted them to make sure they sort of share our values and are passionate about our products. And yeah, we can refer customers to them knowing they're in safe hands, and knowing that these people know the products, they're passionate about the products, and they want to make sure that customers are being supported, because we don't want to be handing out our products to installers that won't pick up the phone when a customer needs them.
And what about the warranty? What do you get actually?
So 3-year full replacement warranty if something does happen to go wrong. So we'll look after customers in every sense. We target a really quick turnaround time as well, so we don't want to leave people in the lurch and then we're on the more proactive side as well. So if we can't conclude that something's wrong, we'll come to the party and make sure we get a result.
Would you argue that nowadays a lot of the solar systems on roofs are possibly not really what I call fit for purpose, because a lot of them are really too small to look after the EV charging, the hot water, the whole house comfort, the battery? What's your advice to people?
I guess the advice at the moment is to get the biggest system that's viable and affordable, and to get the maximum benefit out of it. You can't really go wrong by having too much solar and having them make the most of it, particularly if you can self-consume that and use as much of that as possible throughout the day. And then that's the power you save during the day is power you don't need to draw at night.
So, Myenergi, you've been with them for 3 years, but how long have you been actually in Australia?
So Myenergi's been established in Australia since February 2021. So prior to that, we had an importer that was importing our products and reselling. We saw Australia as a really important market, not just Australia, but also emerging markets, New Zealand and Southeast Asia as well. And yeah, it's a really important space to be in. We've got the most rooftop solar per capita in the world here, and our EV uptake's well behind other Western countries. So it's a really great opportunity for us, particularly with the battery market about to move as well. So very important market and very focused on having success in this market.
So if I buy a Zappi or an Eddi, I mean, everything's made in China nowadays. I assume you guys too?
No, we're actually made in UK. We're a company that's founded in Grimsby, in northern UK, and that's where we're still made today. So we've got a dedicated manufacturing facility there, and all our products are made and shipped and built from there.
And
Grimsby.
research and development happening there too? Or?
Yep, all our software engineering teams are all based in Grimsby. So it's a UK, proudly manufactured and built and shipped from the UK.
Right. Okay. Well, that can give you an advantage over quite a few of the chargers, because I would say a majority of them are all made in China. Nothing wrong with that. They make a decent quality, but it's nice to know that there's UK manufacturing, and we support it by buying that product.
Yeah, so Myenergi was, I think it was ranked 9th in the fastest growing companies in the UK in 2022. If we followed the history of the British economy in the last 10, 15 years with Brexit and also British manufacturing, to be ranked that highly is a bit of a running against the tide sort of thing. But also, it's also reassuring to know that we support and manufacture our hardware, so we're not putting our label on someone else's product, and if it's an issue or something we can improve on, we can do that internally. We're not having to wait in queue for someone else to make that change for us.
So other than the Zappi, which is the EV charger, the Eddi that can help me with the hot water, are there other products going forward?
Yeah, so I don't think we've touched on it yet, but we've got another product called the Harvey, which can make installation much easier. So if you have to run data cable from a switchboard through trenching to a detached garage or something like that, it can be a nightmare and add a lot of cost. A Harvey can make that CT essentially wireless, so it can pair from the CT clamp to the device between 15, 20 meters via radio frequency, and that way you're not having to trenching to run data cable, which the last installer didn't do or was never feasible at the time. And it's self-powered by the CT, so you don't need a power supply to it, and you can commission a Harvey within 5 minutes.
Right. So that's probably quite interesting for a lot of solar installers and electricians to be aware of that particular product, because, I do know that trenching nowadays, concrete driveways in the way, all sorts of issues. It's not really something people put their hand up and really enjoy.
No one wants to pay an electrician $120 an hour to dig a trench.
I think the electricians themselves don't really like doing it.
I don't blame them. It's a terrible job.
Yeah, okay. So there's the Harvey. What about in the battery space? Is there something coming maybe down the track?
Yeah, so we've had a Libby, which is our battery. It's been in the UK market for several years now, and it's been quite successful. But we do have the next generation of Libby, which will be more focused and tailored to the Australian market coming next year.
Right. So there's a whole infrastructure now developing around the Myenergi footprint, is it?
So the Libby is really the final piece of the ecosystem. It's like the holy trinity of self-consumption of your own solar. Whereas the Libby in Australia, we have a different energy profile. UK and Europe, they have much smaller solar arrays, but they're also much more efficient with how they use electricity, so they don't need as much solar, whereas in Australia we're pretty power hungry.
We have seen on in cold climates we still don't have double glazing and
Yeah,
things like that.
yeah,
Yes.
houses like sieves. So we're prepared to burn a lot of electricity. So we do need larger solar systems and also larger capacity batteries and inverters. So our next generation Libby will be sort of tailored to those needs for our local market.
Bit of extra grunt, huh?
Love a bit of horsepower. Yeah.
Okay, so there is more coming from Myenergi. So don't forget the Harvey and the Libby. Will it still be called Libby when
It'll
it's
still be called Libby, yeah.
Libby with the extra muscle? All right. Well, look, it was really, really nice to see you, Johnny. Thanks for your, honest approach and explaining a lot to me because, as I said, I know a lot about solar, but the whole way of how to use my solar smartly, I definitely got a good lesson today.
Thank you, Marcus. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Great. Cheers.
Please support the channel by liking the video, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, and check out all our other videos. Want more energy answered? Visit yourenergyanswers.com for quality energy products, tools and calculators, and find your quality local installers. You're still here? I'll see you next time. Bye.